Good morning, good evening, good night. This is Guilmette again, guys. How is everybody doing and their isolation at home? I'm sorry about that, guys, but here it is. This week's guest, the one, the only, the lost one, Gemenez. How's the day going, man?
It is going good. Hold on, let me take my last sip of tea here. And Gilmy, it's honestly, I'm so appreciative for you doing this interview. I'll just start off by saying that this is the inaugural Lost One Gemenez shoot podcast interview, so to speak. So you are the first one to get the truth out of me, and hopefully people can understand me a bit more after this interview comes out.
Awesome, man. And I am happy to have another podcast debut on Guilmy Talks because I love bringing the quote unquote young guys on the show, because talking to these guys is always fun.
I appreciate it, and thank you for calling me young. Love it.
Well, hey, well, I'm old as dirt, so it works out. Yeah, fine.
Nice.
First question: what was the spark that made you a wrestling fan and to actually get into the business?
Okay, so I'll shoot straight from the hip. When it comes to this, I was broken down by a rough little childhood I had. I didn't really have parents growing up due to circumstances. So I was raised by my grandparents, and in that time I was a very isolated kid. Not that I was antisocial, so to speak, but I did have a sense of introvert to me, and I found wrestling through my older uncle. He would watch it with his friends. It started off with WCW, the kids at school who would be able to watch it. Their parents would let them stay up late. I had to go to bed at 8:30, so I could really never watch any wrestling, but the kids would talk about it, and eventually I was like, oh man, I gotta check this out. First pay-per-view, I believe, was Halloween Havoc, and I was lucky because Halloween Havoc actually cut early on the pay-per-view. So they re-aired it the next day, that Monday. They re-aired I believe it was the DDP Goldberg match. So I was able to actually watch it on TV after school. And after that, I was like, oh fuck, this is awesome shit. And I was pretty much hooked from then, but if I dig deeper to the core of it all, my father and my grandmother were both huge wrestling fans, like Sergeant Slaughter days, Bruno Sammartino, Ollie and Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, NWA. So as a toddler, I was watching wrestling. I was sitting in front of a screen and playing with my Hulk Hogan action figures and just loving it. And then things happened with my family that kind of caused us to separate, and then I went back. I went to go live with my grandmother, and I got back into it, like I said, after Halloween Havoc, and I was never allowed to watch it because I had to go to bed at 8:30. So I would find crafty ways to sneak into the basement and watch it behind my grandmother's back, and eventually I got caught, and then that wasn't working, so I actually got my best friend, Louis Hastic. He lived 5 doors down from me. His dad would tape it religiously. So I would wake up 5:30 in the morning. I would barely sleep. The night of a pay-per-view, I would barely sleep. The one that I remember the most was the Royal Rumble '99. I couldn't sleep. Did Austin win? Did McMahon eliminate Austin? What happened? So I woke up at 5:30 that morning, went to my friend's house 5 doors down, got the tape, put it on for 6 o'clock, watched as much as I possibly could of it. I would obviously rewind to the ending, because I didn't have that much of a space to watch the entire pay-per-view. So 7:30 hits, I hide the tape under my couch, I sneak back into my room, I pretend I'm sleeping. My grandma comes into my room to wake me up for 8 o'clock to go to school. And it was a routine, right? It was like my secret little routine, a secret little plan that I had going on with my buddy Lewis and his parents. You know, they knew it was going on. They knew that I wasn't allowed to watch wrestling, and they still hooked it up. And thank you to them. So you know what? First, let's thank the Hastics. If it wasn't for the Hastics, I don't think I would have fell in love with pro wrestling as much as I clearly have. You know.
Oh yeah. And what is it about Austin who just captured an entire generation of wrestling fans? I have still talked. I'm still doing shows about Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he has his own podcast now.
You know what? You know what I think it is when I think about it. Like, I mean, the typical answer is he was the rebel. He was the renegade. You know, he was going against the rules. He was giving the middle finger to his boss and saying fuck authority. And me as a child, I think I related with him so much because, you know, my life was essentially a microcosm of that, you know, because my grandmother was so strict, you know, and I was always kind of under the thumb of authority, you know, because I was a hyper kid, so, you know, they were always on my case. So I think I related to him in that sense, and I think everyone else did. You know, they saw some sort of rebel who could stand against the authority, and you know, as a kid, fuck, you hate authority, man. You really do. You can't stand the teachers. You can't stand, you know, your parents telling you can't go out at night, or, you know, you can't do this, can't do that. So I think that essentially is what really drew people, kids, to his character, and I think that's a big part to why he got over. But also, you look at Austin too. His mic skills, you know, he would say so much, but yet so little. And I think that was also something that was so entertaining and exciting to see. You know, Austin grabs a mic, you know, he's going to say, you know, maybe 10, 12 words max, but each one of those words is going to be a punchline, so to speak, right? And yeah, and I just think people kind of attached to him from then on, you know, and I think that's why he was so over.
Yeah, and also, I think the glass breaking gave everybody just something to be excited about.
Oh, it was so cinematic, wasn't it?
Yep.
That moment, that
Yeah, and then the dun 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 dun, and it just 5 seconds. You were up on your feet. You're like, what is going on? What is he going to do now?
Yeah, always... No, exactly. You know, one of my favorite Stone Cold angles that I will never forget for the rest of my life was the time where the corporate ministry, this was in like '99, corporate ministry, they abducted Stephanie McMahon, and they were going to do some sort of sacrifice on her, right? So Vince McMahon, you know, basically goes to find his enemy and pleads with his enemy to help him. You know, he goes to Stone Cold. He's like, Austin, you're the only one that can help me. You're the only one that could stop The Undertaker. I know we have our differences, but this is my daughter. You know, Austin's backstage looking at McMahon like, fuck that. Like, go fuck yourself. Da-da-da-da-da. And then you're just kind of hoping, you know, because, yeah, Austin's a rebel, but you do want to see that hero in him. You know, we're all waiting to see that element that kind of shoots him into the stratosphere of being a hero, right? So the Raw goes on, Ministry of Darkness comes out, they got Stephanie McMahon on a cross, you know, they're about to do this fucking black wedding sacrifice thing, and just at that moment when the glass shattered, it was like, oh, fucking right, you know, it was just so, it was heroic, but yet badass at the same time, like rebellious. You know, he comes in, he stunners everyone, and he saves the boss's daughter. You know, just to show that sense of humanity really, really popped me, man. Really popped me large, and it's one of the best Stone Cold angles ever. And when you talk about the glass breaking, you know, in certain moments like that, you know, where the story arc is kind of at that climatic point, that's when it happens, and it was perfect.
Oh yeah, because Stone Cold is just, he's I don't want to say the modern day cowboy, but he has that aesthetic to him where he can be the biggest badass in the world, but he's always going to do right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And as a kid, you want that. You know, you want to see that. You want to see the hero save the day, and you know. And then we got that. We got everything with pro wrestling. I got everything with pro wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's why I loved it so much, because even though I was so isolated, I always found a connection with pro wrestling. I always found a connection with this program, this television program.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
And now there's just so many options out there with AEW, Impact, Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
WWE has multiple shows now, which I'm actually loving NXT UK right now. That's probably my favorite WWE program.
I love NXT UK. My buddy Mark got me into it, and I love it. I love I love the chain wrestling of it.
Yeah.
I love the storytelling. You know, like there's elements of storytelling. There's selling body parts and working on it and continuing things. Like the biggest issue for me in pro wrestling is when, you know, a story gets built and then all of a sudden nothing that happens correlates to the story that was started, right? Like there has to be correlation. You know, if there's not correlation, then there's a big disconnect. And I think that's, you know, it's an issue. It's an issue in some senses, right? With certain matches that I've seen, or, you know, certain promotions, I find when you miss out on that, you know, and people bash WWE. People say WWE, they just don't like watching it. And I think a lot of it is that connection, you know. They lose the connection when they don't correlate certain story dynamics that were started and then never decisively concluded.
Yeah, because I'm going to get a lot of heat for this. But when Vince Russo was writing for WWE, everybody had a story. Whether it was good, great, the shits, everybody had a story. Everyone on TV had a reason for being there. Like, and just like...
For sure. Well, and you know, Vince Russo, he gets a lot of heat. But one thing you cannot deny is that this guy's ability to create a story, and you know, and just write a story angle and say, let's nail it. Like he hit it on all cylinders in that regard, you know, while he was with WWF. You know, I feel nowadays though, you know, with my character, it's imperative for me to incorporate that story, you know, because the story is what brought us all to pro wrestling, right?
Mm-hmm.
I find that, like, when I first started wrestling, you know, I had to assess wrestling cards, you know, whether they're the indie shows or, you know, television shows, and I found that sometimes, you know, the matches would blend together because the parallels are so similar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And speaking of characters, you have a very, very interesting one. Can we talk about where this actually came from, where it started from? Because I'll be honest, I didn't. I try to follow as much on Ontario indie as I possibly can, but somebody directed me to your stuff, and now I just dug down in the YouTube rabbit hole, and I think I watched
you gotta really dig there.
Yeah, I think I saw most of your matches on there. You have a very interesting look, interesting character, and interesting style.
Thank you.
What do you want to talk about first?
Well, as far as my style and my character, you know, so going back onto what I was saying about the storytelling aspect, you know, I was kind of forced to come up with creative things, you know, and variances that I felt would feel different than what most people were used to seeing, right? You know, I found if I could stand out, and also contribute on an element I, as a fan of wrestling, would want to see, and that element would be, storytelling and I guess in a cinematic kind of way, right? Now, my character is very visceral, very carnal, but for me, it was just a matter. Okay, let's give people something different, something entertaining, and create something that's also real to me, true to me. So the Lost One, Gemenez, essentially is a derivation of a lot of things. First, the Lost One character started when I was in Woodbridge, and I'd always say this thing: lost ones will rise. The lost ones will rise. I was always told that I was lost because I lived in a shelter. I lived on the streets for a long time, and I was always told by people like, he's lost, right? Kids that I went to school with, I'm not at school anymore because I'm in a shelter. Where's PJ, or where's Jem? And oh, he's lost. I don't know, he's lost. We don't know where he is. So the lost kind of stuck on, and I was like, you know what? Well, lost ones will rise. I may be lost, but I'm gonna rise. And I always told myself that lost ones will rise, lost ones will rise. And even before it was a hashtag that I'd used. So I was sitting on the bus in Woodbridge and just thinking like, lost ones. I'm like, that works, lost ones. And the name Lost One was never an idea. It was just the term, the catchphrase of it really, really resonated with me and resonated with people in similar circumstances. So I kept it the catchphrase, but the name didn't come until I went to Battle Arts. And when I was at Battle Arts, I was trying to figure out my character. And I don't know, randomly one day I was in my kitchen, I put on some face makeup because I figured, okay, well, let's look at my cultural background. And I did some research on my cultural background. I'm Chilean and Italian, right? So I looked at Chile, and in the 1500s, the Chileans were at war with the Spanish army. And there was a tribe of Chileans called the Mapuche tribe. And there was a warrior by the name of Galvarino. And Galvarino and the Mapuches, they would paint their faces white and red every time they'd go to battle. It was a symbol of like the blood of their comrades that were murdered, and the white stood for the bones of the skeletons of the corpses, right? So I just kind of put it all together, and I was like, you know what? I'm like, I'll paint my face white and red, right? And I went to Battle Arts, and I'm like, Anthony, I'm like, white and red face. And he's like, I love it. He goes, you know what? He's like, we're gonna call you Triple V. I'm like, what? He's like, Triple V, and I'm like, okay, what's it stand for? Vicious Voodoo Victor. I'm like, vicious, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I really feel that. And he's like, okay, well, you come up with a name this weekend because it's gonna be my debut in the Battle Royal. So I was like, okay, I'll think about it. And I went home and I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? Like, fuck, why don't I just call myself the Lost One? Because I was so different than everybody in this school, in Battle Arts. I was different than anyone I met in the wrestling business, I felt that I was kind of a misplaced hand, a misfit, so to speak, right? Just the way I view things and what I've experienced in my life, I just felt it was practically impossible for me to be, in a relatable conversation of life with someone because, I can't relate. So I'm like, fuck, it's like I'm lost. It's like I'm just lost, because I'm by myself in this world, and I'm like, that's it. I'm like, fuck it, Lost One. So I go to Anthony the next day. I'm like, Anthony, I got it. He's like, all right, what? The Lost One. He looks at me, thinks, perfect. That's it. And from there, I was like, all right, fuck it. The Lost One I am. And, yeah, and the lost one was born, and then I just kind of put all the pieces together, and Gem came. Gem came from a little promo I used to cut. And this is before I went to Battle Arts, so promo I'd cut in the showers. I'd come in, I'd be like, I'm dissecting the complexion of perfection. I'm the answer, the question, the lesson. I'm the gem of professional wrestling, and I was like, the gem of professional wrestling. Like, yeah, because, fuck it, I'm like a diamond in the rough, and those times I was really into CM Punk. He'd come out, he'd be like, best in the world. And it was, I remember what he said in his DVD was, how am I have to believe that I'm the best in the world in order to be the best in the world. Right? So that's why he says he's the best in the world, because he believes it. So I'm saying I'm a gem. I have to say I'm a gem in this business, or else, I need to believe that I'm a gem. I'm a diamond in the rough in this business that no one's, hasn't scratched the surface enough to find, right? So the gem of professional wrestling, and then I look at my mom's last name, Gemenez. Gemenez, switch the I with an E, Gemenez. Perfect. Lost one Gemenez. Lost one gem. And that's kind of how the name came to be.
You don't really look like anyone else on the indie scene right now, which is kind of awesome, because you don't, for independent wrestling fans, there's the wrestler's look, right? And there's basically three kinds of looks for guys. The tall jack guy, the big man, and there's always a third guy that kind of doesn't fit right, but you can tell he's a professional wrestler.
Gotcha.
You don't really fit any of those molds, which is kind of refreshing to see too.
Yeah, I find that could be also a blessing and a curse, in a way. Because people don't, when I say people, I mean the decision makers, they don't know what to do with me, right?
Right.
And it becomes kind of difficult for me to get booked by certain promotions, just because of the fact that these promotions, they're used to having this structure of wrestlers, like you said, these three types of guys as wrestlers, and they can play with these guys. They know how to book these guys. They know what matches to put these guys in and how to work them. But see, with someone like me, it's kind of a thing where they got to kind of twiddle their thumbs about and just think like, oh fuck, well, what the fuck do we do with this guy? How do we put this guy in here? And I feel it's been a big issue my entire wrestling career.
And speaking,
getting booked and getting on.
And speaking of that, you've been wrestling a little while now. When did you actually start?
So when I actually started, so I was a backyarder. I was one of those guys that loved what you saw on TV, and I would backyard wrestle with my buddies, and we'd do stories, and I mean, it was just that's where really I took my first bump on the park grass with Tom Chater. So that's when I first started, man. We would beat the crap out of each other, but legitimately, I started in 2011. It was actually right after my father passed away, and it was something that I promised my dad I would do. He made me promise him while we were watching SmackDown that if I wanted to do wrestling, if I loved wrestling and had the passion for it, then he made me promise him that I would pursue it, because he knew he didn't have much time left. So I heard about Squared Circle, and I mean that's another long story of its own how I found out about it. But eventually I got my buddy in my old school 2000 Cadillac, and we drove over to Squared Circle training, and the rest is pretty much history, with many parts. But that's when I started, 2011, at Squared Circle, and my first coach was actually it was Fuego, of course, but it was actually Chad was one of the first people to help me with my roles, and also Bon Vertigo, Jeff, who me and my buddy Mark just were adamant on calling him Coach for like the first 2 months. And then I even saw him last month at a show, and I went up to him. I'm like, "Hey, Coach." And he just shakes his head. He's like, "Fuck." He's like, "You still call me Coach?" to me, though, to me, I was like, "Well, fuck, man. Like, you're the guy, you helped us. Like, he helped us tremendously, man. Him and Chad were with us the whole class, and honestly, they didn't leave the ring until we got the basics down fucking pat, and so I really respected that about him. So when I call him Coach, it's not an offense. It's honestly the highest praise, in my opinion, to give him, because he really helped us out. But yeah, that's when I started. I wasn't officially booked until, I believe, 2013, and I lost that booking. That's when the injury started happening. Started off with separated my AC joint, doing a shoulder tiger roll. I tried to dive into my shoulder roll too much. I spiked it, separated the AC joint. The next week was the most horrifying injury. Well, down the road, obviously, I'd have a way worse one, but the concussion I had that weekend still traumatizes me to this day. I didn't know who I was, where I was, what time of day it was. I was driving in my car. I remember I was planning a training match with my buddy Mark, who's a bigger guy, and I was getting ready to work John Greed, a Death Proof show with Chad. So Chad was the first person to believe in me and put me on a card and book me. And I figured, okay, well, my buddy Mark's a big guy, so maybe I can, work him to get ready for working John Greed. And we go in the ring, and then next thing I know, I'm driving on the highway. I got my wrestling boots still on, and it's nighttime. And my buddy Mark's beside me crying and freaking out, and I just remember asking him, what happened? What's going on? What happened? And he was just so fed up. He looks at me, he's like, dude, I've already told you 75 times what happened. We pulled over, I showed you the video. He's like, how do you not know what happened? Like, he's freaking. I look at the fucking clock on my car, and it's like 7 p.m. Holy fuck. Like, it was 3 o'clock. Like, last thing I know, it's 3 p.m. It's daylight out. We're and then now I'm in the car. It's nighttime. So I had to get pulled from the match because of that, and that was rough. That was rough. I wouldn't have a booking until Battle Arts, till I did the Battle Royal. But as far as like a big booking, yeah, I wouldn't have that until 2016.
I just gotta say, I've had one concussion for sure in my life, and unless we have one, you don't know what it is.
Oh, it's horrifying.
I don't care who it is. It's terrifying because you're not yourself.
Yeah, and you have no control, right? You have no, just not knowing something that you should know is very alarming. I mean, like what time of day it is, for instance, or who you are, or what your fucking name is, or where you're going, or like just kind of getting put into a place, and all of a sudden you're in this place, and you don't know how you got there. You don't know why you're there. It's oh man.
And it's just kind of like you're on autopilot, and then you just kind of wake up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so I try to be super careful now, man. But when you're green, you get injured, or maybe mild, maybe serious, but you're gonna make mistakes. You're not gonna be Eddie Guerrero for first year of training. No way.
Oh no.
So
also, he's probably one of the top 5 wrestlers of all time there. So.
Oh, he's my favorite, man. I'll never forget the time I found out when he passed away.
Yep.
Oh man. So I was the only guy. Like I lived with a bunch of friends when I was 18, 19, and they were all tough guys, right? And they didn't like wrestling at all. I was the only one that liked wrestling. And I remember when Eddie Guerrero passed away, I started fucking bawling. My buddy's like, "What the fuck you crying about?" I'm like, "My fucking favorite wrestler just died," and and then they knew him in the video game. They're like, "Ooh, the guy that you always pick in the wrestling game." And I'm like, "Yeah, man." I'm like, "Fuck," and I got so emotional. I used to go to the gas station before I'd go to school. They would always have the new WWE magazines. I was a huge fucking mark for those fucking magazines. So
Oh yeah, same.
I would take the magazine, go into the bathroom with my knapsack, stuff it in my knapsack, head to school. Next day, fucking do the same thing. End of the week, I have like all these magazines, and I'm just cutting Eddie Guerrero pictures out of them, and I'm posting them on a billboard. And I literally made this memorial Bristol board with an Eddie Guerrero collage on it, and it was like my Eddie Guerrero fucking shrine, memorial, whatever you may call it. It was right there on my wall, and I'd look at it every day. I'd fucking pray, or look at it before I pray, before I go to bed. Like, look at it when I wake up. I was so in love with Eddie Guerrero, man, and yeah, that's the lengths I went to. I was the biggest mark ever, and I was affected by his death. I really was.
Oh yeah, because Eddie is one of those wrestlers that he's not everyone's favorite, but once you start watching him, you're hooked.
Oh yeah, man. Jeez, like, even last week I was watching some of his older matches, and one of my favorite matches of his was actually him and Chris Benoit.
Oh yeah.
Those two working together in Japan when he was Black Tiger. It was just, it was incredible. Just the chain, the smoothness. I mean, there's so many elements of pro wrestling that I love to see, and I feel like we're not. I don't know. I feel like pro wrestling is metamorphosized in a sense.
Oh yeah.
And we're not really seeing the good stuff as much as before.
It's also wrestling changes throughout the years, and actually just did a podcast on Swa Style. The Swa Style podcast just did an entire episode on the Dark Side of the Ring Benoit story, and just brought up Eddie. Seeing Chavo talk about finding Eddie, I just broke.
Oh yeah, I knew it had a big impact on Benoit, because I'd always see pictures of him writing letters to Eddie Guerrero, and in the magazine. Yeah, I'd always catch those pictures, and then when Benoit, when that shit happened, I was like, you know what? I'm like, what if he didn't get over Eddie's death? What if Eddie's death had something to do with it? And sure enough, it did.
Yeah.
I related that to my best friend, right? Like, fuck, if I lost my best friend at that time, I thought about how would I react, and I don't think I would go. Obviously, I wouldn't go as far as fucking Benoit went, but then again, there's a lot of questions with that death and what really happened and what didn't happen,
and there's the conspiracy theories that surround everything that personally I don't believe any of them, but people gotta put a reason to it. And
I'll tell you what, theorists will always have a job even in recession.
Oh yeah.
No matter what. Matter what.
Anyways.
Yeah. Keep it rolling.
Oh yeah, back to you.
Alrighty.
Well, you seem to have a very unique style. Is that your wrestling style is very unique from what I normally see, just like your regular gimmick and the way you look, the way you talk, and just I gotta ask, who was your favorite? What was your favorite match of yours so far?
Well, I'll touch on first off my difference in my in-ring ability. I think it has a lot to do with different styles of training.
Mm-hmm.
So, going with battle arts, I learned I learned the submission style of wrestling. I was always a big fan of the UFC. So I found that I adapted to that submission strong style very quickly. Before even pro wrestling, I was boxing. I was training to be a boxer because first that's what my dad wanted me to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and then with Fuego, it was Fuego. You know, he taught a lot of different roll up techniques, and you know, a lot of I guess you could say, you know, he would mix in not necessarily lucha libre because we were never really working the right side, but you know, like high flying head scissors, stuff like that. So I kind of just encapsulated everything into that and just put it out there. See, one thing I want to say that Anthony told the class, which I think is extremely relevant to be heard by wrestlers, young wrestlers, old wrestlers that are listening to this podcast right now. One thing Anthony told me and us, the class, was that you want to be careful with how you present yourself in the ring. He's like, because here's the thing, like, ask yourself this question. He says, what makes you different from a fan who wants to be a wrestler or a wrestler who wants to be a worker? And he says the difference is what you invest into your skill sets will make the difference between you being a fan who wants to be a wrestler or being a wrestler. And what he meant by that was you got to learn different tools. And I feel a big issue right now from what I see is that a lot of guys, they're coming in there and they're learning these moves and they're doing these high-paced matches. But a lot of guys, you know, if they were to get into a street fight or if they were to have to defend themselves or their family or friends, they would be fucked, you know, because the thing is, what we do pro wrestling, you can't pro wrestle someone in a street fight, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what Anthony was saying is you got to learn tools. Learn jiu-jitsu, learn Muay Thai, learn boxing, learn karate, learn kung fu, learn taekwondo. Add these to your skill set so you're not just a fan or a mark who wants to be a wrestler. You're a wrestler who's a legitimate fucking tough guy. Like, you look back at the 70s, 80s, no one will fucking start a fight with Harley Race.
No.
You know what I mean? Those guys were shooters. Those guys were fucking shooters. And what he was saying is that wrestlers nowadays need to also be more shooters. I was just watching a Killer Cross video before you called, and that motherfucker right there, you look at Killer Cross, man. But I wouldn't want to cross him. No pun intended. But like he's got a martial arts background. This guy was gonna fight for, you know, he was gonna be an MMA fighter, but he just loved wrestling more. But see, that a guy like that, that's the kind of guy you want to put the title on. That's the kind of guy you want to coach your locker room, you know, and to lead the younger guys into the future. You know, that's the guy you want to put your belt on. You want to put a belt on that guy. He's legitimate. So that was the one thing that Anthony said was just to legitimize. So I did that. So I took in all my knowledge. I started teaching myself kung fu techniques. I started learning Japanese. I started improving my jiu-jitsu and submission wrestling, you know, and my movement in the ring, my boxing, I use in the ring as far as my cadence goes, right, which is also very different. And I learned breakdancing moves as well, like that move that I do, the rise up, and that's a breakdancing move. And I day in and day fucking out with that damn move, practicing it, because I knew if I could come to the ring and, you know, and someone knocks me down and you know, I want to have a hope spot or some sort of comeback spot, for me to pop up face on the ground up to my feet, it's something that's never been done before. It's something that no one else is doing, and it's something that people can't duplicate. You can't mimic that unless you take the time that I took into learning the actual move. But a lot of guys, they're not focused on putting in these outside elements into their arsenal. They're just, we go to this guy, we learn how to pro wrestle, and then we learn from another pro wrestler how to do this pro wrestling move better, and then learn from that guy to learn how to do another pro wrestling move better, and that's fine. I mean, hey, you know, it's still pro wrestling. You know, you can't fault them for that. But what Anthony was saying, and what I bring to the table is that perhaps, you know, we should also put in some more arsenals. You know, put in some nuances that are going to be different than what the crowd's used to seeing, right? Yeah. And that's why I guess my style does come across as different, because I did take the time to learn these different elements and incorporate them into my product, my brand, the Lost One Gemenez, and that's kind of where that came from.
Now that you're explaining more, what went into your move set, your style. I can't even compare you to anyone else. Like the only one I can really compare now is like a that's so different and so out there would be Darby Allin. But even you two are so different.
Yeah, and Darby Allin's a cool guy. Like I messaged Darby Allin actually on Instagram once, and I just told him, like, he was talking about his story, and I said, you know, my story's similar, and I told him that, you know, Lost Ones will rise. I'm like, you're in the States, but you represent the Lost Ones of the world, and I'm in Canada, but I represent the Lost Ones of the world also. And he actually liked my comment and commented back with you know, like, dude, keep doing your thing. And yeah, I agree, Lost Ones will rise. And I was like, fucking right, Darby. You know, and then he actually gave me a shout out before the CPW Heritage Rumble, February. I got Darby Allin to give me a shout out, and I posted that, and yeah, we just understood each other, and that's crazy that you would say Darby Allin too. That's awesome. That's so so coincidental, because he's someone that I really look at as, like, yeah, that guy gets me. That guy gets what I'm about. Gets what the Lost One's about. You know, he gets my whole shtick. You know, the thing is about my shtick is it something that's relatable. It's something that kind of digs deep. You know, it's not something that just kind of sits on a plexiglass to look at face value. It's something that really comes from deep inside someone. You know, deep inside someone's soul, right? Like when I say lost, when I'm talking like troubled people. You know, I'm talking about people that have struggled in their lives. You know, because if I don't speak for them, no one else will. And I know it sounds very CM Punk cliche for me to say that, but no, I do feel like I have this beautiful, and I am blessed to have this opportunity, this platform for me to be able to express this to people. You know, I have a platform where I can kind of relate with people and speak on certain people's behalf that mostly other people don't like to regard them, you know, and that's kind of why I find this kind of digging deep. You know, this is why it's so important for me to come out and stay consistent and be who I am. And, you know, my brand is my brand, and it has the capability of touching a lot of people and uplifting a lot of people. And essentially that's what I want to do. I just want to do it for the people that don't have the kind of support that others have, you know, because when and I'll end it with this. I'll say this, like, I want to be the big brother that I wish I had when I was living through those times. You know, I want to be the voice of motivation that I wish I had when I was living through those times. And when I was living in those times, I told myself every single day that I would get to a point where I could be. And here I am.
Awesome, man. And the beauty about wrestling, when that 12-year-old kid comes up to you after, that's probably magic right there, right?
Oh, man. You know what? One story I'll tell you, man, that really, really put things into perspective for me, man, was we were doing a charity show. I don't believe it was Courage Pro, but it was with Justin Graves. That's another guy who's really had my back.
Oh, yeah.
He's really had my back, that guy. So he books me, him and Aiden Rain. Aiden Rain tells me there's a booking available at a show in Hamilton. So
Oh yeah.
Gives me the number. It's Justin Graves. I call him. I'm like, hey man, I'd love an opportunity to wrestle. So he puts me in the Battle Royal. Wicked match, honestly. One of my favorite matches, man. And I'll get to my number one favorite match after this. But he books me in this Battle Royal, and we're doing it. It was a charity show for a kid with cerebral palsy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And man, I mean that shit melts my heart right there, So I do the match. I get eliminated. And the kid's all upset. I'm outside of the ring and I'm selling, right? So I'm laying on the floor. I'm selling my injury or whatever. And this little kid reaches his hand out to help pull me up. And I look, and this kid's in a wheelchair. And he was reaching his hand out to pull me up. You know what I'm saying? And he was I remember seeing that. And I went and I'm like, you were the toughest kid that I've ever met in my life. And I told him that, and I took a picture of them after. But to me, that moment right there was enough to be like, you know what, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is what I want to fucking do for the rest of my life. It sticks with me, man. The fact that, I was a hero to this kid, and this kid was trying to help me up, even though he was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And oh man. See, moments like that, they really put things into perspective, they put life into perspective, and just how important you are to, how important we are as wrestlers to these kids that need that hope, and these kids will give everything to make sure that we're okay, even though we're trying to do it so they're okay. Like, it's such a yin and yang balance that just kind of merges beautifully, And yeah, that moment, man. And shout out to Justin Graves for giving me that booking. But my favorite match, and this goes back to your question you asked earlier. Sorry, I got carried away before, but my favorite match would have to be with Quan Chang. The reason being, because me and Quan, we had a good story going into it. It was this never die attitude that I had, and then Quan Chang, this destroyer, this vet who's just a monster. And me and him, we had two matches. The first match ended with controversy. Ref threw in the towel. He's concussed. Ref threw the towel in, called the bell. So I was like, he never beat me. He never pinned me or submitted me. He can't beat me if it's not for his kicks. He didn't have his kicks. He couldn't beat me. So the rematch, I work his leg. And I try to take his leg out of the match, and we went at it, man. It was such a smash mouth in your face kind of match, my favorite. And the end of it ended with him about to give me that kick again, and now my coach throws the towel in. Wasn't the ref? Because I crawled up the ref and I was like, you don't dare stop the match, because the ref was about to ring the bell because he hit me with the kick. I crawled up the ref, don't you dare stop it. I had a fire comeback. Eventually we go to the end, the finish, and the finish is I'm on my knees, Quan's about to hit me with it again, and my coach throws the towel in. So it kind of left it open for a trilogy match, and it was just a very special match for me, in regards to my history of Quan. Quan was one of the first wrestlers I ever spoke to before I even went to Squared Circle. My uncle's girlfriend gives me a phone number. This is a guy at my gym. He's a pro wrestler. I'm like, oh, cool, an actual pro wrestler I can talk to? Sweet. And that pro wrestler ended up being Quan. And then down the road, I'm wrestling him. So it was just so serendipitous in a sense, right? And that was my favorite. I mean, I had my family there watching. The crowd was hot, and that match right there, one of my favorite matches. And I hope to work Quan again. Amongst other guys. I mean, there's so many other guys in the indie scenes now that are just really blowing up.
In Ontario indie right now, we are kind of blessed. We have amazing talent here. We do. Tremendous
amounts. Guys like Justin Sane, man, that guy is such a hard worker.
Oh yeah.
When I tore my ACL in 2017, he actually tore his ACL. I think it was like 2 weeks later, So we went through ACL surgery at like the same time. We were like parallel with each other.
So
So
it
he
just
was actually coaching me through my whole recovery of ACL. Yeah, so I mean, I attribute me even being able to come back to Justin Sane really coaching me, helping me out. And he's a great talent. Another guy that stands out huge is Carter Mason. I mean, that guy's fucking money. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, a lot of people got heat with him and you know, the way the wrestling world works, you know, there's a level of politics and, you know, if I get heat for saying it, then so be it. But it is what it is. There's a level of politics and there's some aspects of clickiness. And, you know,
Oh, and Carter Mason is I consider him a personal friend.
he's a stud. This guy's a star. He's
Oh, yeah.
a hand. He's a big time hand. You know, and I think me and him working together and doing a program together would be something special. Would be something really special because of our backgrounds, our history with music as hip hop artists.
Yep.
And then you know, our two contrast wrestling characters. I mean, he's someone that just really you look at someone having that it factor, and he's one of those guys that I would definitely love to work with down the road. A few other guys too. I mean, I don't want to get in shit for, you know, or you forgot to mention me, but Rip Impact is a hell of a coach, hell of a wrestler. Rip, it pisses me off that he's not in Ring of Honor. It pisses me off that he never got signed in the recognition he deserves. He can wrestle any style, Japanese, North American, Mexican, doesn't matter. You know, and Evan Greenway, you know, he's making his rounds up there too. But I mean, we got to look at guys of our quality, guys that have that factor, right? And unfortunately, there's not a lot yet, right? Like there's people that are established and have their gimmicks and everything set, but as far as the ones that kind of separate themselves, there's only a select few, right? And I Justin Sane, Carter Mason, I like Safe Travis. I like that. I like Safe Travis. He's got his ways to go, but you know, him too. He's up there.
Oh yeah, he's going to make a mark. I know that.
I believe so. But
yeah.
Man, so many others. You know, there's a whole other federation too, right? Like Smash Wrestling. And that fed is like, I honestly, to me, that's like I don't know, that's like the AEW or TNA of Canada, you know, of Ontario. I mean, Smash is up there too. And you look at the guys on Smash, you know, a lot of them too have their mark to be made, right? So just you gotta look at the field and honestly the name that stands out for me, like I said, Carter Mason. That guy is
Carter, and I did a charity show last summer. He main evented it, and against Cody Adiner, and it was a fantastic match. And those guys put on a fantastic match. And every time I get to see Carter live, he's phenomenal. Why that guy's not signed yet, I have no idea.
You know, also with him, it's that same thing that I try to do. Like I can't say it for myself, but like what you said about my character, I kind of stand out, right?
Yeah.
Kind of have that presence. Carter Mason, backstage, before he's about to walk out, I was backstage with him, and I felt that energy that he had, you know? Like when he had that cloak on and the crown on his head, and he's about to go out there, and it's like, you look at him, this guy's ready. This guy's money. You just feel that aura. He has that big star aura.
And where would you like to actually see yourself wrestle one day?
Well, so my plan, my big plan is to kind of I want to collaborate with All Elite Wrestling one day. And when I say collaborate, I'm speaking of my pro wrestling, of course, but I want to also bring my acting and my script writing and you know, the projects that I'm going to start releasing soon, hopefully. You know, it's kind of hard with this coronavirus, but there's a lot of things I have on the go. There's a lot of things I want to put out there as far as my brand is concerned. You know, my music, my merchandise, all these things, and my movie ideas. I want to bring it to AEW. I want to wrestle for AEW, but I also want to collaborate with them. Eventually, help them get to I guess you could say like a WWE Films sort of deal, where they're kind of doing movies and films as well as wrestling. I think AEW is going to be huge. I really do, and I really believe in AEW. I have a strong passion for AEW since their inception. I mean, even before their inception, at their All-In show, you know, it really they inspire me, they drive me, motivate me to want to be a part of them. I mean, obviously as a kid, WWE, but WWE is very
corporate.
I wouldn't say that. I just say WWE is different. Like their way of producing wrestling content is different than what I would want or what I would bring to the table. I don't think what I bring to the table would correlate good with WWE's system as opposed to how it would correlate with AEW's system. So I wanna be in AEW. I wanna launch a TV series that I'm writing, and I want people in AEW to back me on it. I'll give you a clue. The series I'm writing, I have to pitch it to a very renowned and famous Japanese creator, and I just see myself pitching it with someone like Kenny Omega, who maybe not now, but I know down the road will sort of rebuild his relationship with Japan, and I just see myself and Kenny Omega kind of pitching this idea to this Japanese creator. He's a very famous creator, and the idea is off of one of his video games, so it's already, you know, it's far-fetched, of course, but it's what I see myself doing in the future. You know, whether I get this script produced or not, I'll still be in AEW. That's my go-to plan. That's the pot at the end of the rainbow for me. Awesome,
man. Okay, and just going to wrap it up now. Where can anybody find you on social media?
All right, so everyone can find me on my YouTube channel, The Lost One Gemenez. They can find me on Instagram at The Real Gemenez, Geminez. My Facebook page, of course, Perino Joshua Fuelin, and my fan page, TL1 Gem, on the Book of Faces Facebook. And also, hopefully, by the time this airs, I'll have my website up and running, kind of a platform for people to come on to grab some merch and also check out some of my stuff. And that'll be TL1shop.com. Hopefully it's ready by then. Knowing myself, with all the stuff that I have to do, probably won't be. But well, yeah, for the most part, that's, you know, anyone shoot me a message, text me, promoters. You know, obviously not now with this coronavirus, but but I hope to get booked. Hey, let's get the Lost One Gemenez booked this summer. I mean, I got a lot to show people. You know, I haven't even scratched the surface yet.
No, you definitely do. All right, man. I just really want to say thanks for coming on.
Pleasure's all mine, man. Pleasure's all mine. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. No worries, man. Okay.
All right, and before we go, remember, lost ones will rise.
And wash your damn hands, people.
And wash your damn hands. Stay inside and rise up.
Yep.
Gotcha.
There we go. Just say something, anything. Just like, hey, this is so and so, and you're listening to Guilmy Talks.
Hey, this is the Lost One Gemenez here, and you're listening to Guilmy Talks.
Perfect. You're not in the red. Good. La 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 la. Okay, there it is. Perfect. Yeah, as you can see now, I'm very, very professional with setting this up.
Hey, it's all good, man.
Yeah, we're good.
Trust me, the bar is not that high as far as professionalism in my life, so you have nothing to worry about, though.
It's all good, man. Yeah, just got off the phone with somebody else before you, so I have a day off, so I'm getting all my shit done. So.
Yes, sir. Hey, we have a lot of days off these trying times, so to speak. So I mean.
What are you talking about? I work at Costco.
Whoops.
Oh, by the way, my podcast is 18 plus. You can swear.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
I can swear.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's I keep it rated 18 plus, so I don't hold people back from being natural. Cause
I like that.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever met him, but I've had Warhead on the show many times.
Great friend of mine. One of the very few friends I have in this business.
Oh well,
mentor,
you know what?
brother. I honestly I can't say enough good words about him.
Oh, Chad's awesome, man.
Oh yeah.
Well, a buddy of mine.
He's one of a kind, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. No, I love going to Kitchener, grabbing lunch with him.
Yeah.
There we go.
I haven't done that yet. I gotta try that out.
Oh yeah. No, he loves this place. It's the Adventurers Guild. It's a great little restaurant place. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to call him up on that then.
Oh yeah. After all the social distancing's done.
Exactly. Yeah. After social distancing, make sure to get the public service announcement out.
I will be mentioning that once or twice during the show because it's.
Hey, that's fine, man. Don't be like the other company that doesn't mention it.
I'm just like, man, I'm honestly yelling at you at people now.
Yeah, it's obvious what's going on. You know, we need to play our part. We need to keep social isolation going.
Yeah.
And I think it is what it is. It's staring us right in the face, and to ignore it is
idiotic.
asinine.
Yeah.
You know, in my mind, man, asinine. It's asinine in my mind. What's going on, and just not. Stating the obvious.
Well, Costco just rolled this out today, which is amazing. One card, one person. No more groups, no more people coming in with kids. One card, one person. That's it.
That's how it should be. Honestly, that's how it should be.
Yeah, it just it's such a big company. Anything takes time to roll out.
Right.
Right. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're talking about the Lost One Gemenez.
Yes, sir.
There we go.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Enough talking about the social isolation. It's all over the news.
Oh yeah. This is not.
I need a break.
Oh yeah. I'm not even scrolling Facebook anymore.
Yeah, it's pointless now.
No, it just Tiger King and COVID-19. That's it. That's all that I'm seeing. Even though I enjoyed Tiger King, it was a complete train wreck.
What a shit show, eh? But I don't mean it as shit show. I just mean it as shit show, as fucking chaotic.
It was a great show. It was really, really fun.
The most chaotic art pieces are the most beautiful. I yet to understand why, but
no idea.
It's a fact.
Oh, what is your shoot name again?
So, my real name is Purino Joshua.
Okay.
And you're gonna have to say that a few times to get it right.
Oh no.
I would go by PJ as a kid. As a kid, I was called PJ my whole fucking life. God damn it, I hated it. I hated it so much. You know, there's people that still call me PJ to this day.
Yep.
So,
That's why my name's actually Justin. And the only people who still call me Justin are my wife and my mom.
Right on. Yeah, no, see, that's good. Good for you, man.
Oh, no.
You've actually, you've genocided it to just 2 people. Fuck.
Yeah,
I
man.
wish I
No,
was
it's
lucky.
because of the podcast. I've been doing this since 2016. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have my cards in front of me. I've been doing it a while. It just kind of people call me Guilmy now. And whenever I go to wrestling shows, hey, Guilmy, the podcast guy, I'm like, I'm too drunk for this right now.
Right on, though. Hey, Guilmy, I like Guilmy. Guilmy, it's got a nice ring on the tongue.
Yeah, it does.
Guilmy.
Yep.
Just like Gem, you know? That's what I told people. I was like,
Yep.
Gem, just call me Gem. I went through college,
Yep.
the teacher asked me my name first day. And I'm like, you want to know my name? I'm like, most of the people here won't be able to pronounce it. And he's like, well, what's the name that you want to be called? And I'm like, Gem. I want to be called Gem. I want to feel like I'm in a fucking wrestling show every time I come to class. So
Do it up.
Whole school called me Gem for my whole term. So it was good times.
Interviewing that guy was fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I'm gonna do is just sorry. I do edit these. Anything you say that you want taken out, it's out. I'm very much a straight shooter with that. I don't dick around. I don't do any of that jazz.
Okay.
You want it out, I take it out. Even if it's like a couple days later. You know what? I don't really feel comfortable with saying that on putting it out there because
right. Well, you know, I appreciate your discretion in that regard. But to be quite honest, if I'm doing this podcast, you're getting Perino Joshua, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
So everything I tell you and I say on this podcast, it comes from the heart.
Good.
It's unedited. It's the truth. It's not going to be sugar coated. And you know, I'm kind of the guy that likes to speak his mind and how he feels, and then watch the cards fall where they may. Right.
Good.
So in that regard, that's
okay. All right.
That's where I want to go with this. Let's do it. Let's give it.
Yep. I got my regular questions. I got my Guilmy Talk 10. All right. We're good. Interesting, different. All right. Sorry, just grabbing a sip of the water.
I just took my last sip of tea.
Ah, good. Because my voice is finally back to normal a little bit now, which is nice.
Yeah.
It gets.
I think I still got one more sip left. All right.
Do it up.
I'll wait for it. It might be a good little piece to say on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome, Lost One Gemenez. Taking my last sip of tea. Yeah. Good little segue.
Oh, yeah. All right. Good morning, good evening, good night. How is everybody out there right now? This is Guilmy again, and I have a fantastic guest today. I clapped. I fucked it up. All right. Take 2. All right.